Hi there, I'm Rod Bergeron, and today we're going to make a little bit of a summer scene that I see quite often in my travels, not too far from my home. So I wet the top 2/3 of that page, and I'm not going to rinse this brush out. I'm going to use it and pick up some of this blue wash that I have here. And I'm going to make some, very swoopy kind of lines like that. I'm trying to get this to all bleed together and maybe leave some white space on there for us. But, as always, we're going to let the watercolor do its own thing. Whatever it does, it does. I'm going to rinse that brush out really quick. And I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to pick up some green. I have, this is just some forest green that I have here. Any green will do, but I'm going to install some hills across here, sort of like that. So I'm going to make this one slightly higher and this one slightly lower. And I'm going to put this brush right into my green now. And I'm just going to use that to bump up the saturation level of that a little bit. And again, we're just going to let that bleed into whatever it is it's going to bleed into, okay? Don't try to augment it too much. Rinse that brush off. And I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre here. And I'm just going to put this right into the pigment. So I'm not making a wash out of this or anything. I'm just putting this right into the pigment. And again, I'm going to let that bleed to wherever it's going to go to. And I'm not going to try to augment it too much other than what I got going on there right now. Okay, I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to pick up, I have a little bit of a yellow ochre wash right here. I'm going to put that across there like that. And I'll make it a little bit more intense. Sort of like that. That's pretty good. And I'm going to not rinse this brush out. And I'm going to put it right into my green again. Okay. And I'm going to put that right across there. Quick, just really quick like that. Straight right across there. And maybe pick this up a little bit more intensely. So put this brush right into the green and just let that, again, just let it run to wherever it is it's going to go to. Don't try to augment it too much. Okay, you can see we're getting some really nice little wispy kind of trees and stuff going on there that we really didn't have to do anything to create. I'm going to put this brush right into my water and right back out, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is my water. I'm just going to put this right in and right back out. And I'm going to pick up some sienna here. I'm just going to swoop that across there like that. And then I'm going to pick this sienna up a little bit more intensely. And just a little bit more intensely yet. Sort of like that. That's nice. That's what I'm going for. And I want to get rid of this white line right here. So I'm just going to go over that. And see how this is all starting to bleed together here? Nice. All right, so I'm going to take my #1 watercolor brush, and I sharpened one end of it with a utility knife. And I'm just going to put some scribe lines in a few places coming across the bottom here. I got something stuck in my painting there. All right, look at that. Look what's happening back there. That's really nice looking. All right, so we're just going to leave that for now, like exactly like that is. We're just going to grab our bag of salt. So this is just regular table salt. And you can experiment with whatever salt it is that you like. But while this is still wet, I'm going to drop some salt in it. And the salt does a bunch of different things to it. Basically what the salt does is some of the salt turns into salt water. And that kind of goes a little bit crazy with the watercolor. And some of the salt actually just absorbs some of the water around it. So experiment with salt. I use table salt most of the time, but you can use like kosher salt, pickling salt, anything like that. Now, we really need this to completely dry, and then we're going to install another green line across there, okay? So let this completely dry, and then we'll come back. I should say, let it completely air dry. It needs time for that salt to work. So I don't want you to get in here and try to augment it with a hair dryer or something. Just leave it, let it completely dry, air dry. Okay, so that took quite a while to dry, probably almost 2 hours. And I'm gonna paint this here with this is a number 4 round watercolor brush. And I'm going to try to make this into a field, okay? So this is, like a very summery, very bright green kind of a field. And I'm gonna put a lot of, paint in here. And I want this to look, like a field. So I'm going to move my brush so it's, going left to right. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow here. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of yellow into this field in a few places. Look what that salt did for us across here, how it made those almost like flowers across the front there. Okay, so we want this to dry now. So again, we're just going to let it air dry. Don't try to rush it. Just let it air dry and we'll see what happens. If you want, you could put a little bit of salt in there. Let's try that. So I have my little bag of salt here. I'm just going to put just a few grains of salt in a couple of wet areas. And then I'm just going to walk away and let it dry. All right, so let's check this out. We have that green that we just put in there gave us a really good mid field right there. And we have all this that's close to us. So we have, some nice sky here too. This sky turned out really well. Those couple of blue lines in there and then leave some of it white. You can see what happens to it. It just turned out fabulous. And our hills here are pretty interesting. But I think there's more that we can do to this. So I think the more that we can do to it is, I'm going to add some pine trees, but I'm just going to add some pine trees sort of on this one side here, okay? Probably like 3 or 4 pine trees, but let's go ahead and put them in. So I'm using a Sharpie pen, and I'm just going to draw a couple of lines. I'm going to double up a couple of lines. I'm going to make some of these a little bit taller than others. And, that's probably good. Maybe make one more over here to the side. And the way that we're going to do this today is we're going to do it by stippling. And by stippling, I mean making little tiny dots, all right? So I'm just going to grab some Payne's gray here, and not very intense at all. This is a number 1 round brush. You see me using this to scribe with lots, but today we're going to use it to make some pine trees. And I'm just going to go from the bottom to the top like that. And these sort of are pine trees that we have here in northern Ontario where, they're kind of scraggly looking. They really don't have a branch until you get maybe about 10 feet up or sometimes even 20 feet up. And not very many branches on them at all. And near the ground, there's really nothing but the trunk. Okay, so I'm going over top of that line and I'm going back and forth to the top, just like that, okay? So, and then we're going to dry this. So just take your hair dryer and dry that off really quickly. All right, one other thing that I'm going to do with this Payne's gray here, I'm going to put some sort of undergrowth across here. I'm just going to stipple that into just from one side to the other, and some nice bit of variation in there, okay? Some small dots, some larger dots. Now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to rinse it off, and I'm going to pick up some quite a bit darker green. This is like a forest green, and I'm going to look for the spaces where there isn't currently a dot, where there currently isn't a stipple, and I'm going to put some paint into those areas where there's not currently a stipple. And you don't want to have too much paint on your brush when you're doing this. You want to have just enough to make a couple of dots. Okay, like that. Like that. All right, and then let's give this a dry. All right, we're going to pick up a little bit more green paint, and we're going to put some more green paint sort of in this sort of undergrowth area down here. All right, and then I'm going to pick up one last little bit of green paint. And again, we're just looking for areas where there's not currently a dot, or, you know, just wherever it is that you want to put a new branch on your tree. Okay, back and forth like that. And again, you're trying to put dots in where there's not currently a dot. Okay. All right, that's not too bad. Let's put a little bit more down here in this undergrowth area, maybe across there like that. You could even do some across here if you want to, but I'm trying to push this way back. So what happens is when you start to establish this more mid-ground, it pushes all that stuff that's in the background even further back. All right, so let's just drop our mat on here and see what we get. All right, so visually that makes that painting much more interesting. It just sort of brings it to life, and it just gives it much more depth and pushes that background way, way back. All right, thanks a lot for watching today. And if you ever have a question, please, drop me a comment in the comment section. Ask me any questions you want. I have a question for you. I'd really like to know where you're from. So if you could drop me a comment in the comment section, let me know where you're from. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, if you're currently a subscriber, thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching today, and we'll see you again next time.